Of Jodel. There you go. Alessio, have fun. Stage is yours.
Hey, what's up? Who of you has heard about Jodel before? Okay, quite a lot of hands. Who has used it before? We're getting there. So, for the people that haven't heard about Jodel and for the people that heard about Jodel, I will tell you today how we started the whole company and how we got to where we are today. Jodel is the world's hyperlocal community, and how did we start? I was studying abroad at San Diego State University for a year in 2013 when I started to have the first idea. First idea was a little bit different to what Jodel is now. When I came back to Germany, to RWTH Aachen, which was my home university, I started to work on the idea with a friend because we were thinking, how can not anyone have had that idea before? There's millions of apps out there. There's apps for everything. Why isn't there an app that lets you connect with people you know? That was at the time our idea. But without having a public profile so that everyone is sharing again, which at the time was like going down. You wouldn't see a lot of people sharing on Facebook and other platforms anymore. We wanted to create this place where everyone is sharing weird stuff, interesting stuff, fun stuff, and it starts to be a place where you can see what's happening again, right? And at the time, we were so excited about the idea that we even made people sign NDAs when we talked to them about the idea. We were sitting in the cafeterias of our university at the very furthest seat down the aisle, so no one can hear what we're talking about. We were so excited about the idea that we basically stopped studying without ever having developed an app before, and just focused on what at the time was called Tellem. So this was in my old apartment in Aachen, where we were meeting every morning 9 o'clock to start working on the concept, right? And in August 2013, that was our co-founder who was developing the first product, and we actually were so convinced about the idea that we used this prototype to go and pitch in front of investors in all the accelerator programs that just started at the time. It looks pretty shitty, and it looks pretty shitty because I made it with Microsoft Paint at the time, right? Nevertheless, we thought it doesn't matter because it's all about the idea. On the left side, you see what at the time was the first product we wanted to launch, Tellem. And on the right side, you see our first big feature that we wanted to develop, which was that you can do a public check-in. And since we started in university, our idea was you can check in the library, you can check in other public places to chat with people in that public place, which is actually what Jodel now is. At the time, we thought this is going to be a feature that we're going to develop down the road. We then actually managed to get some funding from Berlin investors. And the idea was we launch it in the United States because I just came back from the United States and had a good access to the university there. So why not in California, right? Because if you want to get big, you have to get big in the US. So that was our first idea. And we actually started to launch it not in California, but in Colombia. Why in Colombia? When I was in high school, I was studying a year abroad in Barranquilla, Colombia, and the people there were using social media very early, like the Americans, and I learned about Facebook there for the first time. So I thought, why not launching it there? Then we're not going to burn our entry level to the American market, and we launched with this version in Barranquilla, Colombia in January 2014, and it was quite a fail. Because we have developed the app for iOS, and it turns out in Barranquilla, Colombia, most of the people use Android, right? So that was the first fail. Nevertheless, we're still very excited about the idea, iterated, learned, and launched our final product then in April 2014 in California. We bought this very old van, gave it a paint job, and started to basically travel around and do a marketing tour across the colleges in the US and promote our app, which looked like that at the time. So for the ones that know, Jodel is already similar in terms of colors. A lot of the features were similar. Nevertheless, this was connecting you with your friends and not with people nearby like we do it nowadays. What happened then after 90 days of touring around was that people started using the product, but they didn't come back, right? So this was a big hit for us because so far everything worked out very smoothly. Like we were thinking ourselves, wow, this is way too easy. From the idea to raising money to building a product. And here we had our first wall that we were running into. This was a very hard time because it was very the question, how are we going to continue? And at the time, I was the one leading the marketing tour in the US, and I talked to the users all the time, or the almost users. And that was very important for me personally, because I could see that while our product at the time wasn't really suitable to the needs just yet, the idea behind it was something that people were very, very excited about. So I talked to my co-founders. Some went back to studying, some went back to join other startups to continue there. And I started to focus on what people were saying in the US, and that was basically, why the fuck do I have to have people in my phone book to talk to them? If you want to connect everyone on campus, why don't you just make it location-based, right? And that was like a big thing that at the time we didn't think about, because all social networks usually depend on your friends first, and then they go from there. So when we discovered that, we discovered what Jodel is. Basically, how we think about communication nowadays is that there's like 3 different dimensions on how you communicate and who you want to be in touch with. The first one is friends and family. That's obvious. You have a lot of apps to do that. The second one is the world that came with the internet. Nowadays, you can know what's happening in the world at the glimpse of a fingertip. You have Instagram, you have Facebook, you have Reddit, you have Twitter, you have so many platforms, and they're all very global by now. Last but not least, there's location. What is actually happening nearby? And this is something that hasn't really been solved yet. There's not really a native place where you can go and just talk to people nearby, right? So if you have a girlfriend, if you have a boyfriend, and you have Tinder on your phone, just to talk to people in an area that you're traveling to, you might get in trouble, right? On the sites like Foursquare, Google Maps, you cannot really talk to people. You can look at reviews, etc. No one is really watching local television anymore, and local newspapers is also something that most of the young people don't really read. So Jodel is out there to change that. And we're here to build a global platform for local communication and media. That is how Jodel looks like today. It's very simple. You download it, you log in, and you're going to see what people nearby are basically yodeling about, right? So Jodel is either a text post, a picture, a video. You can comment on it. There's a conversation starting to happen. And by that very, very simple way that we provide to talk to people nearby, we create community. We started to do that when we were coming back from the US. We were broke, new team. With our last euros that we had on the bank account, basically. And we started to do that in Aachen because it all started there, right? So, and in Aachen, it really started to take off. End of 2014, it was really the last shot we had. Immediately after we launched it, the first day we cracked the numbers that we had as a plan for the entire month, and we could see people were using it the way we actually intended that people use it. So that's from like the first week in Aachen. You see people warning others about where not to drive with the bike. There's police controls. You have people sharing stuff in lectures, and it starts to create really a community feeling. We quickly understood how we launched one university, and we had a very simple idea that if Nicholas, who's today head of community at Jodel, launches one university by distributing flyers, because that was the only way we could actually quickly reach a local audience. And we reached 20,000 people. We're just going to do it 50 times, and we're going to have 1 million users. Now, this was internally a meme, but actually, that was our business plan, right? That's what we did. We just did it 50 times, and we got to where we are now. Jodel today. So today we have in Germany alone 7-digit amount of active users. We have more than 1 million posts per day. People that log in on a given day have logged in on at least 5 different days of the last 7 days. So people that are active on Jodel are really, really active. And most of the people are very educated because we started with university students. Other countries where we were active in is all the DACH markets and the Nordic countries, very strong, and then also Saudi Arabia. How do people use Jodel, and why Saudi Arabia? I'll come to that a little bit later. So at the beginning, a lot of people know Jodel because it's very funny. There's a lot of funny content being shared, and people were saying Jodel is a joke machine. It's for sharing jokes. And we saw that 60% of the people, the most used activity on Jodel was actually voting, and we thought, this can't be really true. This is not why people stick around. And we found another metric, which is basically very simple, clicking on a post to read the conversation below. And that really changed everything for us internally, because we figured out that actually 90% of the users that log in on a given day, they read comments. And they read a lot of them. They read 33 different conversations, and this is the reason why people spend almost half an hour a day, on average, on Jodel. And this is really filling the need of local conversation. So the use cases are entertainment, news, discussions, question and answers, meeting people, and that's how people use it today. After we grew and grew and grew among students, other demographics started to pick up Jodel, and next to the other demographics, also the first brands started to talk to us, and they were, hey, can we be part of this? Like, we want to join Jodel. And what we did was a very, very simple thing, beginning of last year, and we have this thing called the picture feed, like you can see here, where you can browse pictures. And we made it available for advertisers that you can target our young audience through the picture feed. You can do that. You can do videos. You can do pictures. And it's very simple, very straightforward. But as we're a local community and probably the only ones who have really cracked local engagement to that extent, we were thinking, what's going to be the next step? And the next step is this. This is a very German advertising column, invented in Berlin by Mr. Litvas, and we're basically bringing this to the digital world. So we're developing the digital advertising column. Whoop. So what you can do on Jodel right now, you can just create a post, you can boost it to everyone nearby, and you get the local attention of everyone in your town. You're the only one who can own this place in the app, right? You get the undivided attention, and people can use it from the app itself. They do that to promote a question, but also an event, a product, a shop, a service, or for all kinds of other things which they care about in gaining local attention. Last but not least, not only people from the app itself can do that, but you can also do that as a business. Because we were in the same situation when we launched Jodel, that there was not really one digital channel that we could use to gain a lot of local traction and attention fast, right? So very early on, we were thinking this must be our business model, and this is what we're building here with the digital advertising column. So what you can do here is basically book out different cities, whatever you want, and you get people engaging with your boosted post, right? So we see 45% of the people that actually see such an advertisement, a boosted post, they engage with it, they read comments, they comment to it, right? Like, when was the last time you saw an Instagram advertisement, Facebook advertisement, where people really had a conversation around it? On Jodel, that's happening all the time, right? So what you can do and what you see is people ask questions about what in digital marketing you consider the funnel, right? They didn't understand it. Today I saw an ad, and people were not understanding that that the ad was actually about an insurance. They thought it's about the product that the insurance is giving away in their advertisement. And the people were talking about it in the comments. I think it's actually today in Hamburg. You can check it out when you open your feed. So you get a lot of insights. You can improve your performance like crazy if you start engaging with the local audience. That is something that hasn't been out there yet. We're very excited because this is what we wanted to have in the first place when we started Jodel. And I think what's very funny is, because we're very international and coming back to Saudi Arabia and how people use it there, here we think about local shops, about events. How is it actually in Saudi Arabia? In Saudi Arabia, one of the first use cases was that someone booked Riyadh for an entire day, and he just promoted a prayer, a link to an MP3 for a prayer. And people got super excited about it, voted the post up, and it was there for a very, very long time. It was actually the loudest post of the entire week, so it got even more attention. We're here. We have a stand. You can visit us in Halle B6. K08, K08. It's very confusing, but it's actually pretty easy, where you have all the exhibitors. Come over, talk to us. We invite you to join the movement. We're in Berlin. We started in Germany. We're German. We're very excited that we have the chance to build a big European-based by headquarters social network, and we invite you to join. Sketch your first campaign with us if you think that's interesting. What features would you like to have? What do you think is shitty, right? We dare. You can talk to us. We're not some company where you don't even have a sales representative, even though you're spending $10,000 a month. And be close to us and to the developers of the platform, because I think this is a very, very good chance. Everyone who works in marketing knows that usually when there's new channels, when you know how to leverage a new channel, there's a lot of opportunity, and we're here to partner with you to give you that opportunity. It's good for both of us. Yeah, let's build a relevant European social network all together. Thank you.
Alessio, a lot of thanks. Just stay with me for a second for stepping in on short notice. Well, I wondered when you told all that stuff, and I wondered, it's really smart what they are doing. It's really playing out now for you. And I mean, the figures are great. In the Social Network, the movie about Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, I think he's being asked, where does it stop? Where does Facebook stop? And he thinks about it, and then he says, no, it's like fashion. It never stops. So I don't know if we would agree on that about Facebook. What I have to ask you, where does Jodel stop? What is the natural limit for that kind of application?
I think for us, you know, how we think about it is that communication is the baseline for almost everything that's happening, right? And we think that if we're making it very easy that everyone can talk to people nearby that they care about, that they think are relevant to them, we think that the use cases that I just showed are very just the tip of the iceberg and the beginning, right? So people use Jodel to sell items, to promote products. People use it to play games. It's not very visible yet, but people do that. People use it to meet people. A lot of people think that's very counterintuitive because you don't have an account on Jodel, and it's actually one of the biggest use cases for our returning users. So I think there's a lot of things that will come up in the future that so far at this point they look maybe not so obvious to a lot of people. And I think the end is local is huge. It's just getting started. I think you see so many companies discovering local from car sharing, mobility, whatever it is, and I think. If we can provide the communication layer for that, then there's a lot.
You're going to be fine. Great. Thanks, Alessio. We have a short energy break, like 3 or 4 minutes, and then Xavier Blas from The Wonder Weeks. See you there.